As part of their master plan, the Rothschilds had sent scouts around the world to assess business opportunities. By 1887, the Rothschilds financed the amalgamation of Kimberley diamond mines in South Africa, becoming the largest shareholder of De Beers, which owns the largest diamond mine in the world, still today. They set the price of diamonds and much more. In 1896, Rothschilds visited Palestine and funded the first Jewish colonies there. By 1897, funded the Zionist Congress chaired by Theodor Herzl, who, after being elected president of the Zionist organization, adopts the Rothschild red sign, which became the flag of Israel 51 years later. What most non-Jews don't realize is that the Jewish colonies and Zionist organization funded by the Rothschilds are not well accepted within most traditional Jewish circles because of their history of lies and abuse. When abusers say, "Don't bite the hand that feeds you," we can say, "It's the hand of God that feeds us." Since 1775, the United States has changed currencies 8 times. The first attempt at central banking was in 1791, the first Bank of the United States, a Rothschild's bank, which, as we said earlier, was shut down by Congress 20 years later. This is the first time we bit the abuser's hand, but we didn't bite their hand off yet. The second attempt at central banking in the United States was in 1816, the second Bank of the United States, again a Rothschild bank, only 5 years after Congress refused to renew the charter of the first one, and about 1 year after ratifying the Treaty of Ghent, which officially ended the War of 1812, and about a year after the Battle of Waterloo between Britain and France. This is right after the White House and Library of Congress, our nation's law library, were burnt down. This is all under the presidency of James Madison, who served between 1809 and 1817. And this is also during the time that the states were ratifying the original 13th Amendment. And this was done without even verifying whether or not the states had properly ratified the original 13th Amendment. President James Monroe served between 1817 and 1825. Then John Quincy Adams from 1825 to 1829, and they both let the bank slide. Remember this timeline of the Second Bank of the United States when we talk more about the original 13th Amendment later. Andrew Jackson was the 7th president from 1829 to 1837 and said, "If Congress has the right under the Constitution to issue paper money, it was given them to use by themselves, not to be delegated to individuals or corporations." Andrew Jackson is famous for his position with banking. When asked what the greatest thing he accomplished was, he said, "I killed the bank." President Jackson, nicknamed Old Hickory, shot and killed 3 bankers on 3 separate occasions. And the bank he killed was the Second Bank of the United States, again, a Rothschild bank. And under Old Hickory, the United States started to print their own money again. That just makes me like the guy, even though he had his own issues. We had bitten the hand of abuse the second time, and we went through a few more different currencies, but still hadn't learned our lesson about letting the devils back in yet. By 1913, the Federal Reserve is born, which is the 3rd Rothschild bank. It's what we still have today. You know how I said there are various levels of freedom to slavery in higher to lower realms? Well, there have been various levels of good or bad in everybody. On the downside of Jackson, he was for big government and strengthened presidential veto power. He was the 6th Grand Master of Masons of Tennessee from October 1822 to October 1824, which was before he became President of the United States. As President of the United States, he nominated some Masons as Associate Justices to the Supreme Court. Mason John McLean and Henry Baldwin, a former Master Mason of Lodge No. 45 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Even George Washington was a Mason. But like dirt, the words Mason, Republican, Democrat, Socialist, Communist, it's what you do with it that makes it what it is. I'm not saying they're all bad. There's been good and bad. Some of their leaders have been better than others. The same is true with every single organization in history. All good principles can be twisted at the top of seemingly good organizations to manipulate and abuse people. The Templars, Jesuits, Masons, Illuminati have all been used for good and bad, manipulated to one degree or another. Tactics like saying, "Oh, we have so many great charitable principles we teach. Come check it out. We're doing good things." They hook people in with some little commitments, leading to bigger ones. It's one of the oldest, most subtle tricks in the book. And then, oh, by the way, now you're ready to become a Master Mason. Now that you're under our spell, first you've got to agree to commit murder and treason if we tell you to, and it's okay. It's all forgivable as long as we told you to. It's just a Master Mason thing. You can trust us. And as I said, there are various levels of freedom to slavery, just as there are higher and lower realms. The duality in nature is undeniably everywhere. When we look at things from the perspective of the laws of empowerment, things are simpler because there are too many labels which have been used to stage the simulation or appearance of good and bad. Meanwhile, the parasitic elites have muddied the waters so badly people can't see through it. They've created one big distraction and manipulation plan to deceive the masses. You know, back in the 17th and 18th centuries, it was Old West back then. And Andrew Jackson, he didn't like private bankers. And when he was president, we started printing our own money again without interest. Every time we've printed our own money, the fractional banks, controlled by the Rothschilds, have always pulled in the loans. We had just bitten that hand again, but without enough money in circulation to transact with each other, they forced the recessions, blaming the government for the recession to get their foot back in the door again. We didn't know how to solve that problem yet. All you have to do is have a recognizable currency. It doesn't have to be backed by gold. What we've got now is not backed by gold. All we have to have is a recognizable currency. Monopoly money is basically a note. So is a Federal Reserve note, mostly owned by Rothschild international bankers. About 30 years after Andrew Jackson took office in 1829, Abraham Lincoln became president in 1861. The government should create, issue, and circulate all the currency and credits needed to satisfy the spending power of the government and the buying power of the consumers. By the adoption of these principles, the taxpayers will be saved immense sums of interest. Money will cease to be the master and become the servant of humanity. Abraham Lincoln. 100 years later, John F. Kennedy became president in 1961. You know what happened when JFK decided he wanted us to print our own money again? He was assassinated. Maybe for the same reason Lincoln was assassinated. The tragedy is the fact that no other president since then has been willing to finish the job. When JFK and others gave their lives as martyrs to save the rest of us from our predators, it's up to us to honor them by making the change they gave their lives for. If we don't make the change they intended for us to save ourselves from our predators, we do not honor them. I invite you to watch the video of the speech that got him killed in the next intermission.